I don't know about in the States, but over here is the image of Barry White in the UK is he's the love walrus. He's this fat guy who makes these smooth love jams. And no one takes him seriously, and no one takes Isaac Hayes seriously because of being from Shaft. Excuse me? You mean one of the
Yeah, I know.
tunes of all time? Our Pay It Forward series, where I send our guest curator each month a recommendation based on what I know about what they thought and what they felt about it. So now it's time to go over to my past self, this month's guest curator, to see what recommendation I gave them. And now we come to your Pay It Forward recommendation, Ben, which is DJ Preservation's September 1200. So this now the beat tape that was put by Preservation because he shares his birthday with Barry White. So it's Barry White samples all the way. Fantastic job.
Which, by the way, you really tapped directly into my soul when you sent me this album, because Barry is the top 5 artist for me. And just hearing the first couple tracks, being a huge hip hop head, and I clicked immediately with this record.
Yeah, this is the great thing about hip hop. This is the thing that I share with yourself and actually quite a few of the guests so far is we all are either hip hop heads or we like hip hop we like amongst other genres. And hip hop is the thing that you were like, oh, this is good. And then you start to really listen and you start to go, what's that? So that's like best. It opens the gates and out comes all the other music. Out comes reggae, out comes dub, out comes soul and funk and jazz and all African music and all sorts of Latin music and all sorts of stuff. But the next thing, you're just exploring this crazy world of music. And this is just a very focused version where we focus on the excellent Barry White.
Hip hop was my first love. A Tribe Called Quest back in the 90s started me on that whole trip. And then I got interested in the samples, which is what led to the record collecting. I had to have these records. And then it was recognizing the samples before being told what they were in the music. You're putting it all together and you're starting to realize how brilliant these musicians and producers were to take these pieces of all these records and put them together to create an entire new form of music. Hip hop led me to DJing and record collecting by far, for sure.
100%. Yeah, I would probably still be listening to Britpop if it wasn't for hip hop. My parents introduced me to other bits and pieces. My dad's a huge sax fan, and my mom was a huge Otis Redding fan. So there were bits of other genres in there growing up. Then when I was about 15, Intergalactic came out. But Beastie Boys went straight to number 1. And it was like, what on earth is this? And it wasn't that moment yet. And then over the next few years, I started playing stuff like 3 Pine Rising, Nation of Millions, and I was getting into the Raucous Records stuff because that was coming out at the time.
Oh, yes.
That's when that sort of stuff, why is all the music coming from? What's going on here? And that really, I'm very curious about things, especially with music. I love this album in particular because it's opening, this 3 tape in particular, it's opening you up to this whole artist catalog and this whole artist story. Like he puts in those little bits from the interviews and stuff that Barry did over the years. And Barry's talking about certain personal and professional sort of things in his life. And it's really well put together. It's hip hop, but it's also all these little bits of Barry, the string arrangements, the riff. I don't know if people always think of this when I think of Barry, but when I think of Barry White, I think of the riffs.
Oh, yeah.
I just think he writes those great intro riffs with a great chorus. This is what I'm humming along to.
Yeah, his arrangements.
That's how he gets me.
Yeah, his arrangements, and especially the way Barry would do strings.
Oh, yeah.
Just one of the best orchestral arrangers of the time, especially for the music he was making. I heard stories that he didn't know how to read music.
It's really interesting. He didn't want to do music. He was in A&R. He had no interest in becoming a singer.
Right.
He had no interest in learning how to write music or play music.
And then he turned into this musician of creating some of the funkiest albums, some of the sexiest albums. I think he knew with a voice like that, I think he knew he had to record that and be on something special. He had to.
And what I remember from my notes, it was like someone was like, someone pushed him into it. Someone was like, it's got to record that voice. You've just got to,
Yeah,
voice. And there's all this music coming out. Let them people like Isaac, doing his thing, Isaac Hayes.
right.
It's not dissimilar. He caved in, and that's why we get the Love Unlimited Orchestra album. He was like,
Yep.
all right, fine, I'll do an album, but it's got to be instrumental.
Yep.
And then he was like, oh, actually, that did really well. He basically went from one day being everything the same to within 2-3 years. It wasn't just Love Unlimited Orchestra from Barry White. It was basically a label full of artists that he was producing and writing for. I don't know about in the States, but over here is the image of Barry White in the UK is he's the love walrus. He's this fat guy who makes these smooth love jams. And no one takes him seriously, and no one takes Isaac Hayes seriously because he's being from Shaft. Excuse me? You mean one of the
I know
tunes of all time?
Yeah, you're talking about iconic music here.
And the thing was really cheesy. And it's like, no, they're so talented. No one outside of hip hop head circles talks about these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I bring these guys up with those people, they're like, yeah, Barry White's amazing. Yeah, Isaac Hayes is amazing. Carrie's amazing. He's one of the best. And we're in the minority. I hope they make videos like this turn to a few more people onto it.
We'll just keep spreading the message.
Yeah, that's all we can do. We haven't actually talked about preservation yet. This is almost 10 years old, this beat tape, and this was like my introduction to him. Just before that, he'd done production. He's Miles Duff's DJ, so he'd done production on the Ecstatic. And I picked up.
Oh, nice.
And he does some of the best tracks on the Ecstatic. And he's gone on to make some really great stuff. He's one half of Cotton to Yenlo. And he's done production for Rock Marciano, Your Old Drew. And most recently, one of my favorite albums of this year so far, and I'll put a link in the description down to the album so far. Him and Buddy Woods made an album together. That's incredible. It's like Ennio Morricone made hip hop.
Man, you just sold me on that record right now.
Like I was listening to it again the other day. I went for a walk and put it on with MP3 phone, and I was just, I still can't believe this. This is like the fourth time I'm listening to it, and it still doesn't add up, but it's incredible.
Thank you all for watching this video. If you want to support Eclectic Selections and join our community, there are various ways that you can do that. Number one, you can like, comment, and subscribe right here on YouTube. This helps our video get noticed by the YouTube algorithm, and it helps other music lovers like you find great music. You can, two, follow us over on Twitter. Here you'll get the latest news and you'll get extra recommendations. You'll be able to keep up to date with everything Eclectic Selections. You can join our code fee, which is just like Patreon, so you can support us and you'll get access to extra content like private playlists, extra video recommendations from our guests, all that good stuff. And there's more coming in the future. Join our Discord community where you can chat with other music lovers and myself about music and other subjects too. All the links for all of that down in the description in our link tree. Thanks again for watching, and until next Thursday, keep it eclectic.